Good evening. So it is either Saturday night or Sunday morning, depending on your perspective. In April, beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous evening. And I am going to unveil how Fire Goddess actually started. So, Fire Goddess is being written completely out of order. Completely out of order. It essentially about maybe 2 years ago or so, maybe less. It started as a writing exercise, just to, kind of get the gears working again, see what I could do. It had been years, literally, since I had written any, short story fiction. I had, still dabbled with poetry from time to time and did some nonfiction stuff for a while, but I hadn't really sunk my teeth into, short story writing, the stuff that I really, enjoyed, doing back in high school, really. Um, and using the inspiration of trying to impress this person that I was talking to, I was like, all right, well, let's see what I can do. And so I came up with something called Final Interview for Fire Goddess. And so ironically, one of the pieces for Fire Goddess, is further along in the plot line chronologically. But yeah, so I started in the middle of the story, not the end necessarily, but in the middle. And it was an interesting experiment, and it went so well that I kept going and kept going and kept going. And Fire Goddess is essentially writing itself bit by bit by bit. And so some of the pieces you guys have listened to online already, but here is the very, very first piece of Fire Goddess that I wrote. That is not at the beginning of the story whatsoever, very much in the middle. All right, Fire Goddess, final interview. Okay, so looking back on the notes on our last session, we talked about your identity. Care to elaborate on that today, please? Well, I could. I paused momentarily, but then today will definitely be our last session. And why do you say that? Because if I tell you the reality about my identity, things happen. The interviewer looked at me skeptically. Really? Yep, you're not the first. And under my breath, I mumbled, certainly not the last. I'm game, let's have it. Okay. I actually grinned this time. My mortal name you already know, and my mortal body is nearly 50 years old. Your mortal name and mortal body? I'm not following. I know, this is probably what's labeled as delusional, but hey, let's run with it first, shall we? The interview nodded, amused. I have a mortal body and a mortal name, but I have an immortal soul and an ancient name that no spoken language can pronounce. Okay. I am a goddess of fire, born in the time of darkness. I entered this lifetime just before the winter solstice, and I was meant to bring about both creation and destruction, as fire does. Right. The older I become in this mortal body, the closer my soul is to going back home, and my powers increase. Powers? Yes. From what I can discern, the trouble with going into a mortal body is oftentimes we forget what our powers actually are and what our identity actually is. But the older and wiser we become, and the more we experiment with these powers, the more clarity we're able to obtain and our powers increase. As our powers increase, we get closer to going home. And where is home? Home, I sighed. How I miss it. Unfortunately, how to get home is a mystery. Until usually, we have to find others like us to combine enough energy together for the journey. We're drawn to them. We feel this overwhelming longing to find others like us, to find our equal, to find our match. And when we do, it gets us closer to figuring out how to get home and where home is. All right, tell me more about your powers, please. We are each unique in some traits and similar in others. As a goddess of fire, at a young age, I started figuring out what was unique about me and what I might want to keep hidden given people's reactions. The first time I can recall something unique, it was dream related. Messages would come to me via vivid dreams ahead of them happening. The visual symbols weren't always clear at first, but I practiced training my mind to follow the initial interpretations A sense of intuition. The more I allow myself to open up that power of intuition, the more accurate it has become, and at times I have used it while fully awake. There are times, though, where I wonder, did I know that that was going to happen ahead of time, or did I help push it in that direction? Okay, please continue. As a goddess of fire, inspiration is my other skill. I am a natural muse. I can ignite a spark in someone. I ignite passion, both sexual as well as motivational and intellectual. At times, I simply manipulate them. That has been entertaining, amusing, and dangerous. How dangerous? I'm especially good at igniting anger, spite, and fury. Given my innate inclination towards competition, plus my fierce temperament. Oh, what a combination that can make. The interviewer nodded, understandably recalling the referral in the initial interview. As a goddess of fire, I also have kitchen magic skills, hearth-like qualities. It was helpful indeed that this mortal body had grandmothers that were very skilled in kitchen magic. They were able to pass on a lot of that knowledge to me as a child. From kitchen magic, I started exploring other forms of magic. I've dabbled only a bit with blood magic. It is so powerful, you have to be very skilled to use it. With this form, I'm only apprentice level. One of the other forms of magic that I've been able to harness at a young age is sex magic. Sex magic? Yes, and it is exactly what you're thinking it is. I basically use my body as an instrument to both inspire and to get what I want, and to acquire what I need. I manipulate others into whatever direction I choose. It is immensely gratifying and seductively powerful and somewhat addictive. There are times where I've overused that power, and there are times where I have underused it. Generally, it has become now a power that I'm more selective with how and where I use it, realizing exactly how much both I can burn someone else, but also be burned. Even as a goddess of fire, internally I'm not immune to being harmed. But my weaknesses are things that I hide so that my immortality is not threatened. The last thing an immortal wants is to be trapped in the mortal realm forever. That is a curse that is very difficult to break. In fact, there are some of our immortals who have been cursed in such a manner. We seek them out and try to help them free them. Some of us have even made the fatal choice of remaining in the mortal realm permanently. At those times, one of us may even agree to stay with them, beside them, even if the reason for their intense companionship over the generations of mortal lives could inevitably be forgotten. This is really over the top. Oh, I realize it's a lot to understand and so forth. I mean, my eyes are icy blue. Shouldn't fire goddesses have eyes of hazelnut, chocolate, brown, or something warmer? And yet my eyes have always been able to be the strongest tool that I have for manipulation. That and my voice. When I combine the two, when I look someone directly into their eyes, I am reaching past their eyes and into their soul. I tell them what I want them to think and what I want them to feel. This is both how I inspire and manipulate. It can be very tantalizing, enticing, enthralling, and again, addictive. I can tell by your skeptical expression and your body language is reading suspicion. Not to mention, I already know what you're thinking. You need proof at this point, don't you? Proof? Is that even possible? Grinning like a Cheshire cat. I'm already almost 50. I have learned how to reveal myself from time to time. It's quite fun. Although, as I mentioned, once I do this is our last session. And why is that? Well, if I go into full reveal of my divine persona, it is very possible you'll be blinded or turned to dust. It has taken practice to learn how far to progress this reveal. It can be like, it has to be a dimmer switch. Do you have any sunglasses? Sunglasses? You can't be serious. Shaking their head. Fine. The interviewer goes to their desk and opens their drawer. They take out their sunglasses. All right, sunglasses are on. I look around the interviewer's room one more time, kind of checking for any other hazards of danger, any flammable objects too close by. All right, and just in case, it's been very nice meeting you, and you've been incredibly entertaining for a mortal. The interviewer began to sweat. Good God, what have I agreed to? Yes, that's usually the last thought people have right before I do this. Again, thank you. It was nice knowing you. I snap my fingers and attempt to do a gradual reveal. My armor starts to appear on my body, very similar to that of the goddess Athena, and my wings of fire slowly emerge from my back. My hair turns from its mortal, mousy brown into an auburn glow of flames, and my piercing blue eyes become even brighter as my height increases from 5 feet to 8 feet. Wow. The interviewer stepped back, making sure their sunglasses are still on their face. The room began to become very warm. The interviewer started to sweat more. You aren't kidding, they gulped. Nope, not kidding. I shrugged and grinned. You have wings of fire, I snicker. Well, why aren't they feathers? I'm a goddess of fire. If you want feathers, maybe talk to one of the gods of air. There's gods of air? Yes, and earth and water. How many of you are there? Typically 12 during any one lifetime, and we search each other out as best we can. At times, we've had more in the mortal realm, but those are times of great catastrophe when other immortals have had to be summoned to this realm. Great catastrophe? Yes, but that's a far longer story for another time, I'm afraid, if even ever. As I said, this is our last session. So, this is your full reveal? No, this is the armor that I wear into battle. A full reveal is more dangerous. You may want to step back as far as you can. The interviewer, compelled by curiosity and obliged, and stepped back into the farthest corner of the room as possible, and again checked their sunglasses were firmly in place. I'll do the full reveal briefly, but briefly, mind you. I snapped my fingers again and slowly allowed the armor to fade and revealed my true form. My wings became raging flames of sulfuric yellow and talons at their peaks. My auburn hair lengthens down to the entirety of my body, covering my naked skin that is red-orange and glowing like a sunset. The interviewer's jaw dropped open. You're breathtakingly gorgeous. Yes, and thank you. Now, I need to go back to my mortal form because otherwise you may be blinded. I look behind myself. I think you're going to need new furniture. Your couch turned to cinders. I apologize, especially since you're not going to remember any of this. What do you mean? Well, as I go back to my mortal form, I'm going to be erasing the last hour completely from you, and as I said, it's going to be our last session. But what if I want to remember? It doesn't matter. I need to remain hidden more than you need this memory. And that, my friends, is how Fire Goddess started the writing, well, at least the writing process of Fire Goddess. That is the very first piece. And from there, it just took on a life of its own and kept going. More coming soon. And thank you for listening.